Buy on MTG. Construct your deck. Command your board. Conquer the table.
Hello out there in the wide world of web. This is Rob with Buy on MTG. Doing another trip down to memory lane. This is the third expansion, so Legends, released 10 June 1994. So the neat thing about Legends, although it doesn't have a single unifying storyline for Legends, it was the originating set to have all of the legendary creatures, and some of which were future given their own story arc. Primarily, Nicol Bolas is going to be one of the most I guess, memorable or namesake characters of this. The set symbol here is a what is it? Doric, a Doric column. The peak of the Doric column. There were a total of 15 million cards printed for Legends, and this one, because it is substantially larger, it is 310 cards for this set. Unlike Arabian Nights and Antiquities, this set's booster packs had 15 cards in it. Go ahead and bust that out real quick. I was able to pick up a Legends, English Legends booster pack from Bob at the Gamers Haven. He received a large set traded in, and like I mentioned before, he knows this is what I'm into, so he hit me up and he's like, "Hey Rob, is this something you're interested in?" I'm like, "Heck yeah." Before I start this set, I did want to give a huge shout out all the way back home to Florida. One of my best buds growing up, since, we've been friends since the second grade, but Ryan, this was our set when we started playing Magic the Gathering, and Ryan is who I learned how to play this ridiculous game with. But Ryan and I just fell in love with all the different crazy characters, and even since then, I've been a Kobolds fan. But yeah, this is the set. Like just some of the artwork. Really, for Ryan, it was what was it? Quentin Hoover. Quentin Hoover artwork for Ryan was like that hooked him. But so giving a shout out to him moving forward. Set 310 cards. The breakdown is 75 commons, 114 uncommons, 121 rares. The common breakdown is there's a C1 and a C2. So the C1, I think it's supposed to be 29-ish per sheet, and C2 almost twice as common at 46. Now U1 and U2, the breakdown online, it feels transposed. It says 107 at U1 and only 7 at U2, but I believe that's just a typographical error. But we're going to go ahead and start going through these. Abomination, just a crazy looking card. Acid Rain was really neat because it was kind of a continuation of a cycle that originated in Alpha, because you had Flash Fires and Tsunami in Alpha, and Acid Rain just kind of continued that cycle. Some of these cards I'm going to kind of blow by because it is 310. Like whatever for Active Volcano. All of these bands with Legends, they're just goofy. But Arun Oakenshield. So there is a breakdown of all of the different, I guess, houses. So if we look, there's the 5 Elder Dragons, which is the primary cycle of this set. But the 5 Elder Dragons each had like a lieutenant to them. So out on Oakenshield is Jund, which would be Veidvictus Asmati. According to story arc, Bartel Runax would have been his second, but really any of the straight up Jund ones. This Wrathy Berserker, really neat thing about this is it's a misprint. It's supposed to have that weird looking, the capital A with the E, like in Ether Flux or whatever it is. But this is a little bit of a misprint. Quentin Hoover artwork, pretty amazing. Going over these, some of these cards are kind of cool. Some are neat. Some are just goofy. I'll stop on big ones like this, All Hallows Eve. It's October. So this I actually have sitting on my shelf over there, but I took it down to sit in here for the set, and I'll pop it back up there afterwards. Amaru Kitken. This was the card that won Ryan's heart, and it's really funny. But yeah, that was his jam. I didn't realize my script was peeking in the corner. Well, dang. Angelic Voices. Angus McKenzie. Angus McKenzie is the follow-on. He's the Bant lieutenant to Arcady Sabbath, which is kind of cool. Anti-Magic Aura is okay. These Enchant World, that's one of the new mechanics or rules that fell within Legends. So in the back of each Legends booster pack, it came with a single card, which boop, 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 looks just like that. And it gave you a basic, like, how to interact with Legends, because Legends didn't exist prior to this. And just kind of had to learn how to use them. And Enchant World is another new rule set. The first Elder Dragon we're going to come to is Arcady Sabbath, like I mentioned, just right here. Angus McKenzie was his lieutenant. Kind of cool. Axelrod Gunnarsson, really neat card. The banding. The banding was ridiculous. I mean, they really did try to make banding into something, but you just can't. You can't make a mediocre mechanic good and just hope it works. Just skipping by a couple of these because I don't want the video to be forever long. Bartel Runax, like I mentioned earlier, he was the Jund lieutenant just underneath Vivictus Asmati. Mana batteries. This is another cycle within the set. So you got a mana battery of each color, and really just super inefficient. 4 mana for an artifact, 2 and tap to put a counter on it. Tap, you add a mana to your mana pool, and you remove as many counters as you want mana of that color. So it's just a mess trying to make it work. I did skip one of the new mechanics, this Rampage. So Rampage 3, it's neat in its idea, like, oh, he gets stronger because he goes into a Berserker Rage, but super easy to just not have to deal with because you just only block him with one thing. The only way that Rampage would work would be with lore effects, but there's just not a lot of those. Sorry, had to pause for a moment, but picking back up. Bloodlust, really cool card. Definitely utilized quite a bit back in the day, especially when Ball Lightning dropped. So we would use Ball Lightning as a 6/1, Bloodlust it, making it into a 10/1, and then Berserk it. And then you would have just done 20 damage. And it's trample, so that was always kind of cool. Another mana battery. Boomerang. Boomerang's just a cool card, bouncing something back. This little dude making the devil tokens. So, fun thing about this time in the game, all of the token synergies and the things that made tokens, they didn't come out with the actual token cards. So we would use little glass beads. It was the weirdest thing. Let's see if I can get that close enough to the camera so you can see it. So not these exact glass beads, but glass beads like that. And if they were flat down, it meant they were untapped. And when you would put them round side down, it meant they were tapped. But yeah, just neat little thing. And there was a gift set, thing. I think it started during Revised, and it more or less it came with like 2 starter decks and a little bag with beads and whatnot. I do not currently have one of those, but I'll keep an eye out for it. And if I find one, I'll do a product review thing on it. Kyrian Ants, really cool card. It was a neat way to kind of deal with, or something to dump a ton of mana into. Forest Walk, sure, whatever. Another one of those bands with. That was another part of the cycle. Chain Lightning saw a ton of love because at this time in the game we only had Bolt, then we had Chain Lightning, and then later on we got Incinerate. So that's really when Burn started to even be a possibility of a deck. Chains of Mephistopheles. That is just a paragraph of verbiage on it. It's there's a thing in Legends. They call it like the Four Horsemen. It's the 4 powerful black or expensive black cards. One of them earlier was All Hallows Eve. Then you have Chains of Mephistopheles. Later we'll see The Abyss. And Nether Void is the 4th one. Chromium was my personal favorite Elder Dragon. His right hand would have been Half Dane. We'll get to Half Dane later, but I think it should have been Dakin Blackblade. This was one of my favorite artworks. Just anything. I just was a huge fan of Richard Ken Ferguson. But anyways, Chromium, really cool card. And yeah, just really spoke to me as a kiddo. Cleanse is one of them that was banned. All black creatures are destroyed. It was banned due to the implications of like a racial cleansing. So I can understand that one. Clergy's Cocoons. Cocoon had a really weird mechanic, and it was a pupa counters. Just something unique to this card. I don't think anything else in the game uses pupa counters, but there it is. Concordant Crossroads. Really cool card. Probably would be way more money if it wasn't involved in Chronicles, because that kind of unlocked it from being on the reserve list. But Concordance, great card. Horror's foolish. Crawl Giant used to see a little bit of play back in the day. 6/4 Trampler. The Rampage 2 was kind of irrelevant, like I said, unless you had a lore effect. And there were certainly lore decks that ran Thicket Basilisk and Cockatrice, but Crawl Giant was pretty neat. Crevasse. So this is another cycle. I don't think we passed any of them. We may have, but creatures with Mountain Walk may be blocked as if they didn't have this ability. And there was a whole cycle of enchantments that said like creatures with this walk could be blocked as if they didn't. And the funny part, one of them in here says that planeswalking creatures could be blocked as if they didn't have planeswalking, but I think at this point in the game, there was only one creature with planeswalking. I think it's in this set, Righteous Avengers, maybe. I don't know. Either way, they're, I guess, but they're kind of silly. Cobalts, they won my heart. I mean, I loved the Cobalts. You got the Drill Sergeant, you have the Overlord, you had the Taskmaster, you had 3 different 0-drop Cobalts, and of course Raga of Kirkheap. And then recently they did like Son of Raga and all that, which is super cool, but loved the Cobalts. Cyclopean Mummy, sure. Archer, but yeah, Dakin Blackblade, beautiful artwork, and he got a pretty cool reprint. And then Dakin the Blackblade Reforged got a print, so now it's an equipment and everything. Super cool. Darkness is a Fog Spin. Also in this set is Holy Day. Oh, here's another one, Deadfall. If you had Forest Walk, you could be blocked as if you didn't. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. Sure. These are all kind of like a nothing card. DI, Divine Intervention, is a really cool card. It was banned. I think it was banned in August of 94 when the first ban and restricted that happened to this set. Divine Intervention was the only one banned out of it. Everything else was restricted. Like Falling Star was restricted, Mirror Universe was restricted, Underworld Dreams, Sword of the Ages, Recall. And the fun part is every legend was restricted. Original Legends rule, you could only have one of any legend in your deck, and only one could be in play at any time. So like if I had my Dakin Blackblade, nobody else could have their Dakin Blackblade because he was legendary. So how could you have him and I have him? The legend rule got morphed a couple different times. There was a period where if you played one of the same name, they destroyed each other. And then we eventually got to where the current one, everybody can have the same legendary person fighting for them. So we got there eventually. Divine Transformation, just a really cool card. It's a giant enchantment. This one was one of my favorites. Not a good card, just super cool artwork, and just really liked it. Let's see. Elven Riders, Emerald Dragonfly's beautiful artwork. Enchanted Being, she's kind of cool. Any damage dealt to Enchanted Being during combat by creatures with one or more enchantments played on them is reduced to 0. So the idea was everybody was using these enchantments to make their stuff real big. Well, this one could just indefinitely block. Didn't really matter. Going down to Eureka. Eureka is a powerful card. Kind of justifies its cost, if you want to be honest. But really cool card and fun interactive gameplay that kind of like show and tell, just way before it was a thing, and just a cool card. Fallen Angel I used to play quite a bit. I did a mono black deck that was focused around hand disruption, but she was the top of my food chain in that deck. So in response to people trying to kill something, or I would just swing with everything, and when they would place their blockers, anything that I had that was going to die, I'd just feed them to her. Falling Star is a really neat card. It's one of the dexterity-based cards, similar to Chaos Orb, where you had to drop it and flip it. But this one just kind of bolted. Field of Dreams, just fun. Everybody plays with their top card of the library exposed. Cool little mana dork here. Firestorm Phoenix was kind of neat. Floral Spasm. This one, I'm going to pop it out of here so that way we can get it up close, because it is very unique. If Floral Spasm attacks an opponent and is not blocked, then Floral Spasm may choose to destroy an artifact under opponent's control and deal no damage. So it doesn't say like you can choose it to make it deal no damage. It says Floral Spasm picks. So when I was a dumb kid, I swing my Floral Spasm. If it was unblocked, I'd listen. I'd put my head down there. I'm like, what'd you say, little buddy? What'd you say, little Spasm? Oh, he said he doesn't want to do damage. He wants to blow up your Juggernaut or your Black Vice or whatever. Just dumb kids being kids. Another Rampage cards. This one, Gabriel Angel Fire, was a really neat card because you got to change it up, whatever you needed it to do. Just, man, so many cards in this set. This was a whole cycle, this glyph cycle. It was instant speed, do something with a wall, and they weren't good. One of them does some kind of crazy counter. I don't remember which one. It's probably the one that's got 1 million cards on it, and the text is tiny. Gust of Dirk's neat. It was kind of like its own little, that goofy enchantment that allowed Island Walkers to be blocked. Gravity Sphere was one of my favorites because I would always pair it with Moat. So make everything lose flying, and then you can't attack unless you are flying. And only one of them was an enchant world, because the rule is you can only have one enchant world in play at any given moment. I always felt like Moat should have been an enchant world, but it was not. Where are we at here? Oh yeah, block them planeswalkers. Great Aroma Preservation was like a double circle of protection. It could do red or black, which was kind of neat. Greed is just a really good card. Sees play today. You know, you can't say that about most of these old cards. A lot of them see absolutely no play because they've been outclassed tenfold. But Greed is definitely still in there. Another mana battery. You hit up 3 really big legends in a row. Half Dane is Chromium's right hand, as opposed to, like I was saying, it should have been Dak and Blackblade. And then you have Gwendolyn, what is her name? Gwendolyn de Courcy. She is Nicol Bolas's right hand. Pretty cool. Hazezon Tamar, or Hazon, is a really neat card, and I was pretty pumped when they reprinted Hazon, because then they finally gave us these crazy tokens that are 3-color Sand Warrior tokens, so it's super cool to get them. Heaven's Gate is part of this cycle where you get to change the color of something, and I wouldn't have pointed it out, I mean, other than it just being part of a cycle, but recently we had, what was that goofy bird that was just banned? Nadu. The blue and green target, changed the target of something to something else. They blew up price-wise because of that bird, but they don't really do anything other than target. But that's the white one. Running along, Hellfire is just a really neat card. Goinerson, or however you say it, I don't know, just another guy. Anything notable on here? This one is another one that was banned due to being offensive in some regard. Just neat Magic cards, old Magic cards. This one is obviously banned for being offensive. The artist, Harold McNeil, was actually, all of his artwork was banned. We passed some of it earlier, but the other big one is Sylvan Library. And that's why you, not only will you never see Invoke Prejudice, because there's clan members on this thing, but Harold McNeil used to do propaganda artwork for the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. So not only was this card banned, but his artwork as a whole was banned. I did miss a card earlier, this Hammerheim, a legendary land. This was the introduction to legendary lands, and there's a full cycle of that. What reminded me was Caracas. Caracas, of course, is banned in Commander because it bounces a legendary, and that'd be crazy if you could just tap and bounce a legendary, right? But where is the guy? There he is. Jacques Levert is the right-hand man for Palladia-Mors, or Mors. Yeah, that's the Naya Elder Dragon, but this is his right-hand man, or his lieutenant. Really cool Richard Kane Ferguson artwork. Killer Bees used to do some serious work back in the day. Just an easy thing to dump your extra mana into, and man, I've won a fair amount of games with a Killer Bee. Kismet, I still like running tap or static effects that just slow your opponents down, and although people don't appreciate it that much, I think it's a great card. The whole Kobold lineup in there, because you got the 3 lords and the 3rd of the actual little guys. A couple more just cool legendaries. Land Equilibrium. I don't know. I think it's a really fun card, and anytime you can kind of stifle the opponents down to how fast you are. So if you're running like a sans green list, so you don't get a lot of that land ramp. This is a way to slow them down. Land tax, on the other hand, is a really cool way for white to make sure it doesn't miss its land drops. The main thing that I use it for is things like with scroll rack, though, so that way I get those extra cards in my hand and I can use land tax and cycle them out and get new stuff. Just some other neat little cards. Lifeblood Living Plains is a kind of a cool one because it makes all lands into 1/1s, but it makes them also summoning sick, so it slows everybody down quite a bit. This is, I don't know if there are more creatures with legendary landwalk, but for the longest time, as long as I can remember, this is the only creature with legendary landwalk. Moving to a pretty powerful uncommon. Mana Drain at the current rule set is just strictly better than Counterspell. I mean, there's, I guess, that one legendary creature that still invokes the mana burn rules, but at this time in the game, mana burn was in full effect, so you didn't want to always drain, so you didn't always just run 4 mana drains over 4 counters. You would normally run like a 4 and 2 if you were a control deck. 4 counters, 2 drains, something like that. Master of the Hunt, real cool creature. He would make the little legendary, or the wolf tokens that band with other wolves of the hunt. Mirror Universe is one that was restricted in August when the set came out. Moat, I will show a little bit closer. You can see that its little graded tab is right there. I mentioned it in a previous video. If I do get graded cards, I will break them out of there because I play Magic. So if it's a sport card or something like that, or a comic book that I've already read before or have an alternate copy of, and I get one that's graded, I'll leave it in there. But Magic cards, for me, are meant to be played, so I release them. Plus, they don't fit in binders. I don't know. Not my thing. Mold Demon, Mouse Monster, just whatever cards. Another Junkie Bands Land, Mountain Yeti is a whatever. This page is going to be a pretty good page. Nebuchadnezzar or Nebuchadnezzar. I think it's Knezer. But anyways, Richard Kane Ferguson artwork is just beautiful. Nether Void, I used to play this quite a bit in my control decks, and I actually have a list that I'm brewing right now that runs this again because there's a myriad of different ways to make your things uncounterable. But reserve list, so you'll never get it reprinted, but if it were, you'll notice this is Harold McNeil, the KKK artist guy, so it wouldn't have this artwork even if it were. Nicol Bolas is one of the most well-known creatures from this set, or Elder Dragons. We used to call him Nipple Bolas, because he's got a nipple, and kind of implies that they lactate and make milk and stuff as a species, but they're born from eggs, so they wouldn't do that. But I don't know. Just always thought it was weird. The craziest reminder text you'll ever see. For example, 2 green becomes 4. However, the card still remains its original color. The reminder text back in the day was crazy. Another of the Elder Dragons, Palladia-Mors, pretty great card. This one's kind of neat. It's not playable, just neat in that it gives island walk to X amount of creatures. Another legendary land. This one making 1/1s into 2/3s was pretty powerful back in the day because we were already trying to run with a lot of the Curd Apes, which were 1/1s, but if you had 4s, then they were 2/3s. But you had a lot of other 1/1s, so being able to make all of them a little bit larger. Petrosphinx is just junk, whatever. Pixie Queen, beautiful Quentin Hoover artwork. It's just really neat card, and I don't know, she throws stuff. Not really. She gives it flying, so she sprinkles the pixie dust on it. But I like to think that she throws them. I don't know. I know she doesn't. The gypsies were banned due to the racial thing. And I didn't realize it was a derogatory term, much like if you watch the Arabian Nights set, the STD, stone throwing devils. I didn't realize that was either. But yeah, the more you know, and then you do the. Anyways, Manadork as a legendary, she's kind of cool. This one I always thought was kind of neat because deals 1 damage to any target, and but if somebody made you discard it, so we would sideboard this in a lot if you were playing against somebody who ran a lot of hand disruption, like a lot of hypnotic specters, or when Fallen Empires came out and people were Hemdatorocking all over the place. We would run Psychic Purge because they could accidentally kill themselves trying to make you discard. Here we are. Pyrotechnics definitely saw some play in that burn deck that I was mentioning earlier. Quagmire is just another blocker. This one's kind of cool. Planes produce colorless instead of actual white mana. And you would use your same little beads, put a bead on it. That plane's broken. It only produces colorless now, or generic. Rabid Wombat. So it's really stupid. This was the same time frame that goofy video game Mortal Kombat came out, and so the commercial had him yelling Mortal Kombat. And my dumb nerd friends, we would do that, but we would say Rabid Wombat, and yeah, that's just what nerdy kids did in the 90s. Couple other reasonable legendaries. Rasputin Dreamweaver, on the other hand, that is a really good card. And I try to use him every now and then just to kind of bring him out. And I don't know, I think it's fun to show people some old cards and teach them what Magic used to look like. Even though they're available and people can see them, just the more obscure and older reserve list stuff, I think it's fun to show it to newer players every now and then. Recall, this is another one that was restricted when it came out, or in August, so 2 months after it came out. Target artifact becomes tapped. That was one of the methods we used to use to turn off continuous artifacts like Howling Mine and things like that, or the Winter Orb. This was one method you could break parity with it, and yeah, remove enchantments or whatever. Reset was kind of cool because all your lands untapped. Reset can only be played on an opponent's turn after his or her upkeep. So it did have interrupt speed, so at that time they couldn't even use an instant in response because interrupts were faster than instants. But you couldn't use it on their upkeep, so that way you could stop everything. But you could untap your lands and still have your counter magic up. Revelation's really cool card. This one is signed by Kaya Foglio. I can appreciate signed cards. I don't go out of my way for signed cards, but if I end up with one in my set, then that's just how the world worked out. Righteous Avengers. This is one I was talking about earlier that had Planeswalk. Just dumb. Raga of Kirkheap makes all your kobolds bigger, but he had a huge upkeep. And the worst part is pay the 3 red during your upkeep, or Raga and all kobolds of Kirkheap become tapped under an opponent's control. So they would ditch you if you didn't pay them. Rubinia Soul Singer was really cool to steal other people's stuff. And at this point in the game, you had like Control Magic, Steal Artifact, Old Man of the Sea, and Rubinia Soul Singer. So you had the beginnings of a theft deck, but now there's just a myriad of ways to steal people's stuff. And for some reason, people don't like it. I don't get it. I don't know. It's not that big of a deal. Let me steal your stuff. I just want to borrow it. I'll give it back at the end. Sea King's Blessing is one that I was talking about earlier, the change the colors of stuff. Nothing really too crazy. Serpent Generator, I used to play a little bit because it gave you a poison snake and gave you the poison counters, which is pretty cool. I don't remember. This might be the first time that they introduced poison counters. I don't recall if it was before this, but I do know for sure this is very early on poison counter as a thing. Generic legendary, the Solkanar, the Swamp King. It was kind of cool because he was, what is it, the Throne of Bone, where if you cast a black spell, you can gain a life, and he had a built-in. He sat, the Solkanar, the Swamp King, sat upon the Throne of Bone kind of thing is what we used to say. It's stupid, but that's what. So were we. It was the 90s. We were dumb. Spinal Villain, really cool card, taps to destroy a blue creature. That's just powerful. Spirit Link's neat because it does not, even in the errated variant, doesn't give lifelink. So if you put Spirit Link on something with lifelink, you'll get 2 life for each damage that it does. So I always thought that was cool. Stang got a reprint not too long ago, so we finally have a token for him. Before, you just had to own 2 copies of the card to pretend. Stormseeker was just super dope. Mono green direct damage. So that was always fun. Storm World was okay. This dude, the Falconer, he has got a Soul Ring on his shirt because he taps for 2 and you could play it as an interrupt. Sword of the Aegis was restricted because at this time in the game it was considered too good, and it's not good at all. Sylvan Library is a really powerful card. Mentioned earlier why it's got new artwork. Sylvan Paradise is another one of the color shifts that Nadu caused this card to spike. Siphon Soul used to be pretty great because when we would play our multiplayer games, like I mentioned earlier, sometimes they were 5, 6, and one time I had a 10-person multiplayer game. So when you Siphon Soul the table, and there's 9 other people, that was crazy. You'd gain 18 life. A couple other really neat cards. Tatsuya Umezawa. You see Umezawa's Jit and a couple different cards that reference him. And in the story, he kills Nicobolus, which is kind of cool. But Nicobolus, of course, comes back because you can't keep a good villain down. The Abyss, I ran quite a bit back in the day because I had a deck that ran Juggernaut and Jade Statues were my creature package, and the Abyss just kept everybody else's creature package at bay. Tabernacle of Pendrell Vale. It's a neat card. I mean, it is another one that is very similar to the Bazaar of Baghdad, where in the 90s the card was worthless, and then I stopped playing for 17 years, and when I came back, it was just expensive. And I was like, that's crazy. Tabernacle it's okay, but I don't know. I don't believe it's worth even marginally close to what people ask for it. Wretched is just a cool card. Thunder Spirits, Flying First Strike, 2/2 for 3. That's kind of cool. I think it's an elemental spirit now. Time Elemental we used to use all the time because you return target permanent to its owner's hand. Can't target permanents with enchantment cards played on them. But I would use it to break parity with Stasis. So back in the day, this was part of my Stasis package because we didn't have all the tools that we do today to make Stasis just remarkably easy to unlock. You had the Time Elemental, so that meant you had 4 and untap it, and then 2 to play it. So you needed 6 mana just to break even with a Stasis lock. But it was just fun. Old stuff, and I don't know, people still don't like Stasis. It's not that bad as long as you broke parity of it, who cares? But people get mad about it. Another legendary land. This one taps to remove banding or bands with others. Ooh, that's powerful, right? Definitely worried about all the banding getting out of hand. Where are we at? Tundra Wolves, really good. Just a 1/1 first strike. Underworld Dreams is another one that was restricted. That's a powerful card. I mean, it still is today. It does 1 damage, or it does, 1 damage to an opponent for each card he or she draws. Especially in Commander today, with just the sheer amount of cards that people draw between this and what's the new Shieldred? Oh, it's just backbreaking. But yeah, I don't think Underworld Dream sees nearly enough play, but it does kind of put a target on your back. Urborg, remove that Swamp Walk because that's what people are doing a lot of. Vivictus Asmati, just a really cool card. The Jun one, and like I had said before, it was Bartel Arunax was his right-hand man. Veterinarian Gold is that's kind of cool. I can't remember what type of counter is associated with this one. They made up counter names for everything, kind of like I was talking about with Cocoon having a pupa counter, and Voodoo I think has pin counters. Veterinarian Gold has its own counter name. Had the whole wall cycle, which is kind of neat. Just a ton of different walls, though, really. Caltrops, Dust, Earth, Heat, Light, Opposition, Putrid Flesh, Shadow, Tombstone, Vapors. Just walls for days. Oh, and Wonderwall, because... so anyways, here's Wonderwall. I said, no, we're not doing that. Whirling Dervish, really cool card. I don't know. It was just a blast to play. Willow Satyr was another part of the theft package from this era. I didn't mention him earlier because I knew we'd get to him later. Winds of Change, just having another wheel effect for red was super cool. Wood Elemental, hands down the worst creature, I think, out of this set, potentially of all time. So 3 and a green for an asterisk. Asterisk is in the lower right-hand corner. It's right there. Are set to the number of untapped forests you sacrifice when Wood Elemental is brought into play. So if on turn 5 you had 5 forests, you tap 4 of them for Wood Elemental, and then you sack the land, the one untapped one. You sacked the land and paid 4 for a 1/1. Terrible, terrible creature. This was reprinted recently. Super cool card, though, and just draw a card. And this is the rules card that I had mentioned earlier that has general rules, clarifications, legendary rule, enchant world, multicolors, rampage. I stuck this in there a while ago because got a pack and I actually cracked it. And I don't know why, but I did, and it was foolish. But it's okay because I got another one. And that's what it's all about. So I'm going to go back to, let's see, what should I put this on? Let's leave it here because those are expensive, and I'll put this guy over here. But overall, Legends really enabled a huge change in Magic. I mean, just in this set, 55 legendary creatures, and really was the birth of what we all now play, the EDH, Elder Dragon Highlander. You had your Elder Dragons. We didn't play EDH, at least back in Florida. We didn't play EDH immediately after this came out, but we did start getting pretty big into the giant multiplayer games where we did do singleton. I had never heard of actually having a commander and the deck building constraints to fall within the color thing until like 2017 when I came back to Magic. So I am not 100% sure in between us playing with these crazy cards and me coming back to it when EDH started. But overall, it was just awesome. I did print out a list of a couple weird, I guess, things that were misspelled or something. Like on Revelations, it doesn't say, it's supposed to say Ecclesiastics, but it's misspelled on there. And there's just a ton of neat little fun, I guess, memorable aspects of Legends. And with how big Legends was, it was even to the point where the print runs had box A and box B. So box A only had certain uncommons in it, and box B had the other half of uncommons. And I was not aware of it because really Legends was only on the shelf for like a month and a half. It sold out so fast, it was crazy. But apparently they did a exchange program where you could send them 100 uncommons from box A, and Wizards would mail you 100 uncommons from box B. And that would have been really good to know then, because you'd probably end up with way more mana drains. But overall, just a ton of fun. And I really do hope that you all are enjoying this like trip down memory lane, going through talking about what we used back then and what it went with, and just looking at the old cards and talking about it brings me personally a lot of happiness. And it's funny because it was one of the catalysts, one of the primary things when I was discussing doing a YouTube channel was to do this old set review, and I've just been having a blast doing it. So I really do hope you're enjoying it. I've seen a fair amount of comments of people that do appreciate it, and you're the ones I'm doing it for. So I hope you do enjoy it. As far as this set, and where is he? Raga of Kirkeep. Oh, I think I went the wrong way. Yeah, I did. Raga of Kirkeep. Ryan, you said you wanted me to give you a shout out in one of these videos. I appreciate you giving me Raga of Kirkeep for my birthday in 1994. So, yeah. Thanks for my birthday present, Ryan. Anyways, I'm Rob. This is Bion MTG. Good luck and have fun, everybody.
Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment down below.